And I'm back. Whoa. Little error there. Okay, and we're back. And we have got a very special guest on tonight. He is Rick Keeler. He is the host of DoD Cast. It's the district on deck. He covers the Washington Nationals. And Rick, welcome to the show tonight.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Glad to be here.
Rick, we were talking a little bit about this upcoming series, and we both wish that everybody was at 100%, but we know that's not the case in baseball.
Not at all. Nats on right now dealing with a couple of injuries, but it looks like everybody should be okay. Jason Worth had a groin spasm last night. He's expected to be back the next day or two. Daniel Murphy's out tonight with right leg tightness, but Dusty Baker said he should be back tomorrow. Trey Turner could be back tomorrow from his hamstring injury. So while the Nats are not 100% position player-wise, it seems like everybody's coming back and there's nothing too serious, which is what you hope for in April.
Well, I think maybe Daniel Murphy and Trey Turner should just maybe take a couple of more days to get nice and healthy. It is only April, and you don't want to hurt anything and have it linger all season. That's the last thing I know I would want to happen to the Nationals.
So are on the Mets side, are you just hoping Travis d'Arnaud takes the weekend off so that the Nets don't run on him with Adam Eaton and Trey Turner the whole time?
Well, he may very well take the weekend off because he hit his hand last night on a bat, making a throw down to first, and they did call up Kevin Plawecki today. Mm-hmm. There's a good chance he may take the weekend off. But we'll wait and see on what he is. He's pretty fragile. But you mentioned Adam Eaton playing left field, and of course they got him this year to play center field. He's off to a very good start, but I got to tell you, when I was confused by that trade, I just thought it was a bad deal for the Nationals. I thought they gave up way too much pitching, but apparently, what do I know? He's proving me wrong so far.
Yeah, I think if you look at that trade too, Gary, from the White Sox side, Giolito has not performed well in Charlotte so far. He's struggled with command. Ronaldo Lopez could be a bullpen guy, and if that ends up being the case, I know Dane Dunning's doing well in low A, but that's low A right now. The Nationals, I think, have a good steal here at Eaton. I'd like to see him steal more bases, but he does an excellent job working the count. He gets base hits. I think he has a hit in every game that he started in so far, which is really impressive. And I think right now the Nationals have a guy that can hit leadoff when Trey Turner doesn't play, and I would actually prefer it because it would take some of the pressure off Turner and allow him to sort of be creative, do a little hit and run options. And Dusty talked about at the beginning of the season he didn't want to bunch the lefties together, but it's actually their best lineup when they do that.
And of course, Eaton came. He didn't play a lot. Did he play a lot of center field in the past, or was he played more right field? Didn't he?
He played center field a little bit I think it was a couple years ago, but last year he played right field. And if you go by defensive runs saved, he was one of the second best right fielder last year to Mookie Betts, but he's always wanted to play center and said in the offseason he's better than the numbers indicate at that position. And so far, it's a small sample size. He has not looked bad defensively at center field.
Okay, and that freed Trey Turner up to go back to his natural position at shortstop. So what kind of start was he off to before the injury came about?
Defensively, he was really good. He was making great plays up the middle. It looked like the transition with him and Murphy, a double play combo, was strong, and it's significant since Murphy was at the World Baseball Classic. Well, we think he was there, but he didn't play, but he was there. But he did it. It was interesting to watch them work it out. Turner was struggling at the plate before getting injured. Personally, it was, I think, just a slow start to his season. And wasn't really anything to get worried about. He's a very aggressive leadoff hitter. He doesn't take a lot of pitches. But if you make a mistake to him, he'll crush it out of the ballpark, which is pretty rare for a leadoff hitter of Turner's caliber. But the hamstring is going to be interesting, like you said. I want to see – he was stealing a base in extended spring, reportedly, so that's a good sign. But that can be an injury that lingers, so they're going to have to take it easy with him. But I think that's why you have Adam Eaton, and Wilmer Difo is doing a nice job at shortstop in Turner's absence. And he's one of their best young position players, so he's filling in quite nicely.
And you almost have to wonder if the transition to shortstop could have caused some of the leg issue, being that he had played he played a lot of center field last year. So maybe going back to, you just never know nowadays. The way these guys are, personally, I think sometimes they're in too good a shape, and I think their muscles are too tight, and that's why we see a lot of these pulled muscles. But I guess I shouldn't talk. But now Bryce Harper is looking like the Bryce Harper of 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. He is locked in right now, Gary. When he's at the plate and he's taking pitches again, he's laying off everything that's close on the outside part of the plate. He's getting his doubles. He's getting his walks. Last night, the grand slam off Tehran. Now, for some reason against the Mets pitching, he doesn't really seem to fare very well. I mean, he did go 7 for 15 off DeGrom a couple years ago, so that might be something to watch going into this weekend. But right now, he's locked in, and I think it's April last year he was this good, and then the injury, or the supposed injury, happened. So it'll be good to see if he can do this for a full year again, but I think right now it is scary for other teams to watch him hit because he's in that kind of zone right now.
And what's funny about him too is that he does have, I don't want to say he does have an injury problem, but he does tend to get knocked a little bit around and misses time. And 2 years ago, I don't think he missed a lot of time, and that's when he had, of course, the big year. And last year he just didn't. He looked out of sync. He looked like an everyday player. I mean, he just didn't look good. And as you said, the Mets handled him pretty well last year. From a baseball point of view, not from a Mets point of view, but from a baseball point of view, it's good to see him back. Hopefully he can stay healthy and have a big year. But from a Mets point of view, I preferred it last year better.
And I think, Gary, when you look at also last year, I mean, we never exactly learned when that injury happened, which is a little bit scary in that regard. And I also think when you look at that May game in Chicago, when Joe Madden said, well, I'm just going to put him on like 7-8 times, and I'm not going to let him swing the bat. It took Harper a while to get back to taking his pitches again because he's probably wondering, I'm only going to see 2 pitches a game. So I think now that he's learned from that experience, he just makes him an even more of a better hitter.
Yeah, and that really seemed to throw him out of whack after that time. So, but again, you said there was an injury that we don't know when happened or what happened. So we'll have to see. But he is off to a good start. And look, even last year, he was always dangerous. He's always a guy you got to fear and you don't want coming up in any tough spots of the game.
And I think that's what made this Nationals team so impressive to watch on offense early. They're middle of the lineup with Bryce Harper, Daniel Murphy, who I'm sure we'll get to, and Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman has been off to an incredible start, hit a grand slam last night, 11 RBIs to start the season. He's been locked in, and everyone was wondering about him. He's kind of like the David Wright of the Nationals. Everybody wants Ryan Zimmerman to be good when the team gets to hopefully at least the championship series. They don't win the first round ever, but it's great to see him get off to a good start. He needed it, and it just makes this lineup that much better when he's hitting fifth, and teams have to worry about him when they're pitching around Harper and pitching around Murphy right now.
Yeah, and it's tough to pitch around everybody. So they're pretty thick. That lineup is good. So, all right, we mentioned Murphy. Off to another good start. Didn't play. It's odd that he didn't play more in the WBC, and I don't know what that was all about. Simply because the guy finished second, I think, in the MVP. Was it second that he finished?
Mm-hmm.
And he can't even start on the U.S. team. It's pretty strange there.
I feel like, Gary, it's more the case of Ian Kinsler's the second baseman, and the manager was Jim Leland.
Okay.
Take with that what you will. I don't think he's going to sit Ian Kinsler.
Yeah, I know. We're still trying to figure out in New York why we let him go. I cannot figure that one out at all. But and he actually took less money, I think, because I think the qualifying offer was actually higher than what he's making annually. But he wanted a 3-year deal, or at least he wanted a multi-year deal, and he got it and he took it. And I have to say, he made the right choice probably, and the Nationals definitely made the right choice in signing him.
Yeah, that was he was like their second, third option at that position because that took till December or January to get that deal done. And of course, you could credit Kevin Long for all those adjustments he's made, but he's been great for the team. Also, with the launch angles that he's been able to teach the guys about, he's very serious about his hitting, and I don't think anybody thought that he was going to be this good. So it's tough to blame Sandy Alderson because I think even Met fans would wonder, there was no way nobody saw this guy hitting 340 last season when he got that deal.
No, not at all. I mean, he did have the good World Series, and we did see him bloom a little bit there, more so with the power. But to expect what he was going to do was unbelievable. But, it's a crapshoot. You know that anytime, even with a prospect, it's always a crapshoot. And the Mets lost on this one, but maybe there'll be another one along the road somewhere where we can win it.
Well, Walker hasn't been that bad. He's hitting the ball well, hits those home runs, and I think if that back holds up, it's not like I don't think Walker's that much of a downgrade from Murphy.
Yeah, well, Walker had a good year this year, but he's struggling this year. This year, I'm sorry, he had a good year this year. He's struggling so far, and with a team where you've got three guys starting that are struggling, and Jose Reyes has been absolutely awful. Curtis Granderson has been pretty bad as well, and Walker's struggling. It just, they're just not scoring right now, and it's not good. It's just, I look and I see there's something lacking, and I don't know what. Can't put my finger on it. But I'm a little concerned having a big series, and I know it's only April, but 6 games with Washington in April is a big nut early in the season, and I don't know if they're ready to do it any damage playing these games right now.
Well, before I get to what those 6 games might mean, I'm in the hashtag play Michael Conforto more fan club because I watched him. I covered the Stallion Yankees for a little bit while I was at Yanks Yard, and the guy I got to watch when he was in Brooklyn was Conforto. Mm-hmm. And when he did everything, defense, offense, this guy's the real deal. He should be playing more. I understand why he's not, but Curtis Granderson makes the money, but he's the guy that should be playing more. But to your point, I'm interested to see how both these managers handle this because you know from watching last weekend in Miami, Terry Collins is not going to let Jacob deGrom and not let Matt Harvey get to 100 pitches this early in the season. Meanwhile, you have Max Scherzer the other night, who's going to pitch Sunday night in ESPN, throw 110 plus pitches. Steven Strasburg's been throwing 105, 110 pitches. Gio's been throwing 105 pitches because the bullpen is such a mess with the Nationals right now. So you're going to watch, I think, in this series, 2 extremes. Dusty's going to put the starters in longer than he should, and Terry's going to take out his starters shorter than he should. So the bullpens are going to be huge this weekend.
Yeah, and thankfully we got Familia back, so it's another arm in the bullpen. Now, Washington lost their closer. They acquired Melanson last season at the trade deadline. He left and went to San Francisco in the offseason. Did they think they could re-sign him at the end of the year, and were they shocked when he left?
I think they were shocked at the kind of offer he got. There was a sense that Melanson, the Nats really liked Melanson, so it was kind of a surprise that he left. And it's not like I think Mike Rizzo tried. They were in the running for Kenley Jansen. Jansen wanted to go back to LA. That's understandable. They couldn't get Chapman. They couldn't get Melanson. I just wonder, though, when you look at the closer option, Blake Trinan's out of the closer's role. It's now split between Sean Kelly and Coda Glover. They haven't had a save chance since then, since the Nats blew out Atlanta last night. I wonder, Glover looks like he can be the guy. He's got the mentality, but I think he's got to earn it. And he hasn't been very good with the strikeouts this year yet. Kelly is the veteran, but he hasn't, with the past Tommy Johnson he's had, he can't go 2-3 days in a row a lot. So splitting the role, I think, is going to be challenging. But the problem, Gary, I don't think is the closer. I think the problem is the Nats just don't have a bullpen right now that's competent. I mean, you look at Joe Blanton's had a rough start. Enny Romero's had a rough start. Trinan's had a rough start. They are feeding, when you watch a bullpen and they feed off each other when they're all doing well, it can go the wrong way. Everybody's struggling, and you're all thinking, how come we can't get anybody out? I mean, that's really what it's come down to. So I think that they're going to have to go out there in July and find a closer at some point. But for right now, Glover and Kelly are the two guys. They just right now, I'd like to see them get to the ninth inning with a lead because they seem to have a problem with that lately.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because the Mets are having the same problem with their bullpen. Addison Reed's been struggling in the closer role. Robles is up and down. Salas had a couple of good games, and then he would struggle. So it seems like both teams are having a problem early on with their bullpens, and that could make it even more this series even more interesting if both teams are struggling with the bullpen. We could see some 10 10 11 12 run games here coming up this weekend.
I feel like Terry uses Hansel Robles every game. It's like every Met game I watch, Robles is in there at some point. But Salas has been used a ton. I'm sure he's not used to it, and he got his spring off late. I think the key guy in this series, while Reed and Familia are an excellent combo, is Jerry Blevins. Mm-hmm. Jerry Blevins is the one guy last year that seemed to get Daniel Murphy out. Terry couldn't get anybody else to get him out, but Jerry Blevins was able to, and he's going to be called in late in these games against Harper and Murphy. Doubt they're going to go to Smoker in those situations unless it's pretty much not in the Mets' favor. Opposite, maybe the Mets are blowing them out. But I think Blevins is a key for both these teams. Former National, I think, is going to play a factor, and I'm interested to see how Familia looks. He's looked good in St. Lucie and Binghamton, but how he gets on the big stage, and we know Familia doesn't make things easy. He loves to put two guys on and get himself out of situations. So, but he's as good as they come. Yeah,
we know that. But as you say, he had 51 saves, so he must have been doing something right last year. And anyway, we may not see him tonight because they're down 3-0 already. And I don't know. I think it's the second inning or so. But now you lost a catcher and you acquired a catcher. I can't think of his name now.
Matt Wieters.
Yeah, but the guy that you lost.
Oh, Wilson Ramos.
Yeah, he left for free agency, and you acquired Matt Wieters. And of course, you still have Lobaton backing him up. But how has Wieters performed so far this season?
Wieters is good offensively. He's a good bat in the bottom of the order. There's no doubt about that. And it was a good move by Mike Rosa to get him when he did. The one problem is the defense. There's been a lot of wild pitches by the Nationals this year. There was a game where Max Scherzer had 3 of them, and Scherzer only had 2 all of last year. So it's not all Scherzer. Wieters has not done a good job blocking the ball in front of the plate. That's a big problem because you got guys like Trinan, like Glove. Trinan at least throws a sinker down in the zone. You got to block those. I mean, you can't allow guys to get free runs, and that's really been the issue. A lot of fans wanted to see Derek Norris, but Norris has struggled offensively in Tampa Bay, but is a good defensive catcher. So the Nats already had a good offense to begin with, so Wieters is just a luxury, but they need him to improve defensively to help these starters out because with the way the bullpen is, they can't give away runs.
Right, and it's throughout baseball. Nobody can give away runs, it seems, this year because just not the bullpens are struggling all over the place. And so let's go to the rotation now. Is Scherzer pitching tonight?
Scherzer is pitching tonight. Is Strasburg. Scherzer's pitching Sunday night against Wheeler.
Okay. So I don't have the probables in front of me. I know that the Mets will be throwing DeGrom, Harvey, and Wheeler. Mm-hmm. And so the Nationals will be going with
Tanner Roark tomorrow against DeGrom and Gio Saturday afternoon against Harvey.
Okay. So that we have some good pitching matchups coming up, and it should be interesting to see what happens there.
I think the swing game is Saturday. I think the Mets have the edge tomorrow. I love the way DeGrom's throwing right now, and I think he's a guy on a mission, sort of get that number 1 spot back. So, and Roark is one of those guys that's up and down right now. He's 2-0, but he's been good one start, mediocre, good. I want to see some consistency a little bit more, even though he's got the track record. Scherzer, Wheeler's look good. I was at the start Tuesday night against the Phillies, and fastball looked good, but he throws too many pitches. Gio and Harvey's the fascinating one, and you wouldn't think on paper that it's a matchup that's this close. Matt Harvey, to me, I want to see more of if he's back or not. He's looked good, but is he the Harvey that dominated the Nats in 2015, or is he the guy that had a 9 ERA against the Nats last year and got shelled in a lot of those games? Gio, on the other hand, I like the confidence he's showing. He's a guy that when you get a guy on base, he talks to himself, sort of gets rattled, and it turns a bad inning into a 4-run inning. This year, he's yet to give up an earned run with men scoring position. He's been going deeper into games. He doesn't have the fastball, but he locates it well. And at Citi Field, he's 8-1 with a sub-2 ERA in 13 games. So he loves Citi Field. So I think that game is going to determine who wins. One of these teams getting 2 out of 3, and that game might determine who it is.
And he is a strange case, Gio, because he's had games, as you said, he's got such a good record against the Mets, and yet I can remember a few games where they blew him out, like in the second and third inning. So, but like you said, if he's got control of his emotions, that was really one of his weak points in the past. So,
I always think back to last year in the postseason. I remember Dusty saying something along the lines of, "I didn't take him out; he took himself out." And that's a low point for a pitcher, to take yourself out of a playoff game where you're not throwing that well. And he had a rough end to the year, but he came into camp looking confident. He's got shorter hair now. I don't know if it's a reverse Samson effect, but he looks he's pitching well with it. And I think again, it's short sample size, but when you're not giving up a hit with people on base, or not a hit, but giving up any runs, that's a good accomplishment early in the year.
Well, and that's it. And that's all we have to base it on so far is a short sample. But, this is what's out there, and that's what we can comment on. So it's going to be an interesting series, I think. And you were going to say about so do you think it's a big series coming up?
I think it's big for, if you had to say which team it means more to, I think it means more to the Nationals right now. They're in the midst of a 10-game road trip, playing in Atlanta, which, again, they got to go after a late game tonight to New York. So I'm not surprised that Dusty is sitting people, even if they were healthy. And then they got to go to Colorado after the night game Sunday night, which is not going to be easy. The Rockies are playing great right now, probably one of the 2 or 3 better records in the National League. They always can crush the ball. So I think maybe if we have this conversation next week, and maybe it's the opposite, maybe the Mets need it a little more. But the Nats know they can beat New York. They did it last year in the second half of the season. And I think they would look to keep the mental edge early in the year, because if the Mets get 2 out of 3 or the Mets get a sweep, that sort of changes the tide in this division. Because we all know, as much as Miami is playing well right now, these are the 2 best teams in the division, and it should be that way the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to go down to this team. I think Miami will probably fade. They got off to a good start last year, and they faded. I think they'll do the same thing in the second half. I'm still not impressed with their pitching, though I must admit they can hit.
Absolutely. They have great offense. I think the problem Mattingly has, no lefties in that bullpen. I don't know how they go a whole year without a left-hander there, especially when you're facing Harper, Murphy. That's what killed them the first series of the year. And their starters don't go deep enough. As much as I love that bullpen there, their starters don't go deep.
Now, have you've seen the Nationals have seen the Phillies, so I guess the only team the Nationals haven't seen is the Mets, and vice versa so far. Am I correct in that?
Yes. They played Philly 6 times already, and they have Philly 6 times in May. So the way the Mets play Miami so many times, the Nats play the Phillies so many times.
Right.
This is actually their first series in Atlanta this week, which is a nice park. I actually watched a game last night. Watched the game that was on last night at SunTrust Park. Nice facility. Tough to tell if you hit a home run because the right field park blends in with the wall, but it's pretty nice. And Atlanta, to me, if they get an ace, they're on track. I like their offense, 1 through 9, but Julio Teheran is not an ace. Fulton Elliots is not there yet, and they just don't have the prospects. I think they don't have that ace ready to go. Mm-hmm. That's what they're missing, because they're right on track.
Yeah, they are definitely heading in the right direction, and they've got everything going. And that's probably why they signed Cologne and Dickey to eat up innings and to be around these younger guys. And I don't know if we have any more older pitchers, though, the Mets give to them.
Well, Kelly, I'm surprised. Kelly Johnson's still out there. Are the Mets waiting for Kelly Johnson to sign and then trade for him again?
I don't know. I mean, the way Reyes is going, maybe we should just sign him. I mean, do we want to give up another minor league prospect to get him back again? It's crazy, but it's crazy the whole idea that he's even out there. And I read today that Angel Pagan probably won't play this year because he's still out there. I don't know what he's doing, but it's just there's some big names out there that could be a help to teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wilmer Flores, he should play a little more, especially the way that he hits when he's in the lineup, because he seems to have a knack for the home runs. Now, Met fans won't be happy. Maybe they will be happy. Oliver Perez doesn't pitch much for the Nationals anyway. I think he's pitching only 2 games this year. And I think fans are wondering, okay, you got a guy in the bullpen that makes $4 million that doesn't pitch at all, and that's really an issue for them. But Perez could be the odd man out for all it's worth. So maybe that makes Met fans a little bit happy, the way Perez has not fared well.
Well, it's very funny because when he was here and starting, that was the whole argument. They wanted him to go into the bullpen when he struggled, and he refused, and the whole thing. Then they wanted to send him down. He refused to get sent down, the whole 9 yards. And here he disappears. His contract goes out. He ends up in the American League, and he's in the bullpen and really built a second career for himself. And now he may be struggling again, but he made a couple of more bucks along the way.
And you also look at the guys pitching tonight for the Nationals. I think is huge for them. Won't see him this weekend, but if Steven Strasburg from the stretch is as dominant as he was first half of last year, second half of 2015. That's what kind of puts them over the edge, because the Mets have the edge right now with Syndergaard, DeGrom, Harvey. Gesellman, I think, will bounce back. Joe Ross looked good last night in his debut, went 7 innings, which was much needed. But Strasburg, I thought this going into last year too. If he's dominant, that gives the Nats the slight edge. But I think it's close. I think both these teams are so evenly matched, and that's what makes this matchup fun.
Well, and as we learned last year with the Mets pitching staff, it's they all had surgery of some sort, just about. Mm-hmm. And Strasburg has struggled in the past with some arm ailments, and he had the Tommy John surgery. Scherzer missed the beginning of the year, so it's really a fragile thing. And as we said earlier before we got started about just keeping everybody healthy, well, let's hope that's where the fun is. If guys start going down, it's really no fun. I mean, the fun is to have a tight race, but with people healthy.
Let me ask you this one, Gary. Are Met fans disappointed that there's no Noah Syndergaard, Bryce Harper matchup this weekend for the way those two were going at each other in the offseason?
I no, they're not. To tell you the truth, there's been so much talk about the struggles with the bullpen, and the Terry Collins must go crowd has come out of the woodwork
again. Oh man,
yes, and so I don't think they've looked even ahead to the Nationals. A lot of the fans to worry about that. So, no, there hasn't been a lot of chatter about that at all. But it might heat up tomorrow. But I think they just want to get past the Phillies, and as I said, the Terry Collins must go crowd has been popping up in Facebook again. And you know how that is.
But how much of that, when you look at the pitching with them, how much of that is really on the general manager? Because you got to think that if Terry Collins could let DeGrom throw another inning, he would let Jacob DeGrom throw another inning. And he would let Thor throw more out of blister or nail or whatever he's got. But with watching Steven Matz and watching Seth Lugo, which I'm sure Met fans, I loved Lugo in the WBC. I mean, he looked really good. But watching those, that's got to be scary. Watching these guys, and Joe Ross has battled arm problems. Last year had the shoulder inflammation that caused the break in his year. Strasburg had the problem at the end of the year. But you're right. Pitching injuries are going to be huge. Scherzer's looked fine after that knuckle problem. The ace mentality looked fine in Atlanta the other night when he practically got the ball from Dusty on 101 pitches and went out there and threw 15 more in the 7th, which was very impressive. That's what the starting rotation gap between these two and the rest of the division is astounding because these two can just throw quality arm after quality arm after quality arm. But you're right on the Eaton thing we talked about earlier. The depth they hurt. I mean, I'm glad Jeremy Guthrie's gone. It's terrible. Gave 10 runs in that first inning 2 weeks ago. But they don't have a guy right now. Eric Fetty's in Double-A. He's looked really good, but I don't know if he's ready for the big leagues yet. And AJ Cole is okay. He's not great. So there's one thing the Nats do hurt from that deal. They don't have a lot of pitching depth that people go down.
And that's the scary part of that. And that's what really got me when I heard it. Because of the problems that Strasburg had, and Burns has missed some time from time to time, and Steele's pretty sturdy though. He doesn't really do too much time. He's pretty solid, but you had to wonder where is it if one guy goes down, and we saw it here. So we're losing Harvey and DeGrom last year, so it's just so fragile. I keep coming back to that word, but that's the best word to describe pitchers nowadays. And going back to what you said about Terry, look, they're all coming back from surgery, and I'm sure he's getting the word from the front office not to pitch certain guys too much. But you know what? I don't blame him. The weather's been lousy here. It's been damp, been cold. And you really don't want to push him too much, and this early in the year. So, I can't disagree. I do disagree with some of this. I think there's too much of this lefty righty switching stuff and trying to do these matchups, and it doesn't always work. And that I agree upon. But look, the rest of it, you can't fault him.
That's where Familia I think is going to help though with that, because now you got a guy you can slide him back in. Reed goes back to eighth. Let's be honest. I watching some of the Mets, Addison Reed has not had many save chances.
No.
To really earn to say, is he great at a closer or not? He's got the track record from the past, but he's a really good eighth inning guy. And you slide Blevins back in. You slide Salas back down. You slide Smoker or Edgin back down. Pick a guy. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So really having the difference right now, the Mets have roles in their pen. They're all settled now that Familia's back. The Nationals don't have roles. They're trying to figure out who the heck pitches the eighth. Dusty does the mix and match as well. Sammy Solis, who's in the DL right now, usually does lefty, righty, can pitch to both. He's not there. So now can Eddie Romero step up? Can Joe Blanton step up? Can Blake Trinan shake off the lack of confidence from the closer role and go back to a spot in the eighth or seventh where he gets the big double plays? I think he had like 17 ground ball double plays last year. He's that good in that department. But right now, they're just trying to figure out who the heck they can throw in a role. And the Mets' roles are pretty much settled.
Yeah, we just got to hope they deliver when they do get they get the game in those roles. Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's going to be an interesting series, like we said. And good luck to the Nationals starting next Monday.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Rickinator555. Follow the site at District on Deck. My co-editor Ron Juckett and I do the Dogcast post games after every game on our YouTube channel. Ron's gonna be talking to Buster Olney from ESPN tomorrow, so you can find his interview there. And I'll be doing a 5 players to watch in this series. So if you enjoyed tonight, read more in my breakdown tomorrow morning on DistrictOnDeck.com. And Gary, thank you for having me. We'll have to get you on our Dogcast sometime to return the favor.
Anytime you need me, if I can schedule it, I'll be there.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
And I'll be back after this.